Hi, it's Christy at the Burgundy Basket, and this is Sugarcane the sheep. She's one of the patterns in my farm series, and I want to show you how I did these chain spaces that make up her body. Hi, it's Christy at the Burgundy Basket, and I did a tutorial already on how I did these chain spaces for my sheep's head. That's part of my farm series. And I wanted to do a little tutorial as well on the body because the body's going to be just a little bit different. I'll note in my written pattern as well the materials that I'm using, but I like to use Caron 1-pound yarns for my animal bodies because I do make larger animals, and I find this to be a very sturdy yarn, very tough. It holds its shape really well, and so my body is made with the Caron 1-pound in white. But my loops are going to be made in the Big Twist Rainbow Classic in white. This is the same material that I used on the head. I like the softness and the sheen of this yarn, but it is a, to me, it's not as sturdy. It's not the sturdiness that I wanted for my body. And even though it's a number 5 bulky yarn, it works up to me a little bit smaller. So on the body, I've already completed the body up to around 46. I didn't want to go any further because this is 30 stitches around, and that leaves me a good space to stuff my animal after I get the chain loops all the way up to the top. If I go smaller, then this will be harder to stuff, but I am going to complete the body and then add a few chain loops here at the top. I'm going to start my chain loops on about round 10 because my animal's going to sit, and so I don't want to put chain loops on the very bottom of this. I don't think it's necessary. You can, of course, if you would like to do that, but I'm going to start the chain loops for this animal on around round 10. So let me chain or count up to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And just insert your hook anywhere. I'm using a size G hook for my animal, and I'm going to pull this yarn through. And I'm going to pull this tail to the side, and I'll worry about this later. Once I complete the stuffing, I'll tie that off in a knot and weave it into the body. And for the body, I think I'm going to do like chain 6s and chain 7s. I might do a few chain 8s when I get around to the top and make it really fluffy. But I've completed my chains now. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the next hole and come up to the other side, and I'm just going to slip stitch and pull that back through. Pull it all the way through. Sometimes it just gets fiddly and you just have to help it over there. There we go. Now I'm going to do another chain 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now find the next hole in your work, insert your hook, come out the other side, and then just pull that straight through for a slip stitch and go up another 6. Now you can choose to do shorter or longer chains. It's completely up to you. You can chain however long or however short you want for your animal, and you're just going to complete this all the way around. You're going to do chain ups, and then you're going to slip stitch into the next opening, come out the other side, get that in there. I make nice tight stitches, so sometimes it might be a little hard. Now I'm choosing to do these chain loops around before I stuff my animal. For me, I find that easier because I do sometimes when I'm doing this method, pull the stuffing back out, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to chain these loops all the way up the body, and then I'm going to stuff it, and then I'm going to complete the very top and add some more chain loops at the top, and then sew on my head. But this is just to me, the quickest and easiest way to make these little chain spaces. We did do the head a little bit differently, but I didn't have much to do on the head, so I thought that the head method was better for that. So there you go. Now I'm going to complete this all the way around, and I'll come back and show you how I'm going to finish the top. Alright, here I am. I've been plugging away on my chain 6, chain 7 spaces, and I wanted to give you guys a few tips to make this maybe a little bit easier. I've went ahead now, since I've done a lot of the bottom, and I've added some stuffing. That'll help you see my stitches, but it also sometimes makes it harder to hold because this is a fat little guy. So one tip is hold it snug between your legs, just right there at your knees, and sit in a chair as you're working kind of close to the top. As you get up here, it might get a little harder for you to hold once you start doing your stuffing. And another thing too is doing these slip stitches. They can be tedious, especially once you get up here to the top. So this chain space that I just made here, if I tug down on it a little bit and then just guide it over my hook, that might be a little bit easier than trying to twist your work around and get that slip stitch made. So after you do your chain space, just go in, come back out, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just give that little chain that you made there just a little bit of tug and guide it over your loop. That might also save your hands, because I know this can be really, really hard on your hands, and I encourage you to take breaks as you're doing this, because doing all of these little chains and slip stitches all the way around this little fat body, it can be hard work. And don't let it get the best of you either. This should be fun, and if you find yourself getting annoyed with your yarn or the fact that it's taken so long, just pick it up, just put it down and go pick up something else to do and come back to it. Another thing too is if you have a really splitty yarn or a yarn that's hard to work with, maybe you're working with a fun fur yarn even, when you're getting ready to do your slip stitch, it might be easier for you just to do a single crochet. Like I'm just going to do a single crochet, and then I'm going to do my next chain, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I'm going to go into this next space and do another one, and I'm going to do a single crochet instead of a slip stitch. And look, you really don't even notice the difference. The main reason to do the slip stitch is because it keeps that chain a little bit closer to the body. But if you're doing single crochets, it's fine as well. You can't see it. I've done some single crochets down here through my body. And one other thing, don't feel like you need to do every single stitch and space around your animal. It's like, let me skip this hole and go into this hole and come out this one, and I'll just do a single crochet. And so now I'm going to do another chain 6 or chain 7, and then I'm going to go over here, I'm going to skip this hole and go into this one and come out, and it's going to be fine. When you get done, you're going to have all of these great little these chain loop spaces all over your animal. It's going to be nice and full, and you're not going to see that you've occasionally skipped a space. And for that matter, you might even, if you're working with a bulkier yarn than me or a fun fur type yarn, you might even want to alternate stitches every other row so that you're not having to do every single space, and just see how it looks for the yarn that you're working with. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to do every space. A project like this is going to take a long time, and so I want you just to have fun with it and not be worried and stressed out, and put it down if you need to and pick it back up later. And then just keep plugging away on these little chain spaces, because it makes such a huge difference when you get done with your animal to have all these nice little chains and fun little loops all over your work. It's really just a fun thing to do. So I didn't want it to be tedious for you. This is my only pattern, I think, other than my llama, where I've added these kind of little spaces on the animal body, but it's so cute when you get done. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys those tips on how to make it a little bit easier. And now I'm just going to keep plugging away on these chain spaces. Let me just do a single crochet here. I'm just going to keep plugging away on my spaces. And when I get up here to the top, I have to finish doing my decreases and stuff, and then continue my chain loops here.